Hi guys, I'm back home and there's no wind down here. You might see Mr. Lara walking back and forth. He's working from home. Okay, this is called, trust me, Hansel and Gretel are sweet. And it's the story of Hansel and Gretel told by the witch by Nancy Lowen. Yes, I'm the witch from Hansel and Gretel's story. And yes, I live in a house made of gingerbread. But I most certainly did not tumble into the flames of my own oven. I mean, look at me. I'm alive. And never would I even think of eating Hansel and Gretel. It's time that I set the story straight. Gather round. But please, no nibbling on the house. I always knew I was different. While the other little witches were learning how to make potions and cast spells, I was playing with my food. I molded mashed potatoes into polar bears, and I wove noodles into wall hangings. Her dad's like a little confused. As I grew up, my projects got bigger and better. I was a food artist. I made beds out of marshmallows and floors out of rock candy. Eventually, I built my own cottage, my masterpiece. A dry spell kept the rain off my house, but I couldn't cast a spell strong enough to keep the birds away. So I got a pile of children's clothes from lost and found boxes, and I put up scarecrows. I suppose that's what started the rumor that I ate children. But the scarecrows did the trick, except for one crow who wasn't the least bit scared. I called him Thorn. Every day, I had to patch the messes he'd make. It was an ongoing battle. Charlie keeps knocking my arm off like he wants to go for a walk. Do you see him? Not long ago, I was back doing touch-up work when I heard children's voices. A shutter snapped. A window shattered. Little hooligans were eating my house. Little hooligans. I ran around to the front. Stop that this instant, I yelled. This is private property. The children, a boy and a girl, stared at me in horror. We're sorry, said the girl, but we're so hungry. Please don't eat us, the boy begged. I could see that the children weren't doing well, so I invited them in for something to eat. Their names were Hansel and Gretel. Between bites, they told me quite a story. Our stepmother wanted to get rid of us, Gretel said. She said there wasn't enough food for us, but she just wanted it all for herself. She made Dad leave us in the forest twice. She was hoping that we'd get lost, said Hansel. The first time we made a trail with white pebbles and followed it back home. The next time we made a trail with breadcrumbs, Gretel continued. But let me guess, I said. The birds ate the crumbs, right? The kids nodded. So they're telling her this story. Of course, I said that they could live with me. I mean, where else could they go? Hansel, Gretel, and I got along beautifully. I taught them about food art. They helped me with chores, and they kept an eye on that horrible bird. Remember the bird's name? Hansel was a natural artist. He made a wonderful sculpture of himself out of sponge cake and fruit snacks. Sometimes I teased him by talking to it. Oh, Hansel, I want to gobble you up, I'd say. Life was sweet. I didn't even have to worry about Thorn anymore. One day, he just disappeared. But you know, it was too good to be true. A bird like that never gives up. So that's one of his masterpieces, and she's talking to the masterpiece, not the actual boy. A few weeks later, the kids and I were baking pies. Suddenly, Thorn landed by my window box and began pecking away. Then a woman's voice called, "Yoo-hoo! Is anyone home?" Hansel and Gretel turned as white as powdered sugar. It was their wicked stepmother. Yes, the stepmother and Thorn were working together. They wanted the kids and me out of the picture so they could eat my house. Well, that wasn't going to happen. I flung open the door. "Now look here," I began, but the woman pushed past me. "Darling children, you're alive!" she exclaimed. "Run for it!" I told Hansel and Gretel. I grabbed a pie and I was about to throw it in the stepmother's face when she opened the oven door and shoved me in. I know that this is a scary part of the story. If you need to take a few deep breaths, go ahead. So there I was, hollering and pounding on the oven door. But then I realized something. The flames weren't burning me. In fact, they tickled. My dear old oven, my true and best friend, would never harm me. When the stepmother checked to see if I'd burned a crisp, out I popped. Not a toasted hair on my head. She ran away, shrieking. Thorn flew close behind, and they were never heard from again. Now life is even sweeter. Hansel and Gretel still live with me, and so does their dad, a nice fellow now that his wicked wife isn't around. With all these extra helping hands, I've made plans to expand. Guest house, a playroom, maybe a swimming pool. We'll have a party when it's all finished, and you will most certainly be invited. I hope you enjoyed Hansel and Gretel, told by the witch.